Well, welcome to One Mission Podcast. We're so delighted, sheer delight to be able to have our convention president again with us, Craig Carlisle. He was elected last November. He was unopposed, and he has been busy during the course of these last 10 months representing Alabama Baptists at various venues. He is a passionate president in a lot of ways, and we have enjoyed being able to have a hands-on president. In my tenure, which I'm in my 27th year, we've really enjoyed the fact that he's been available to come to a lot of meetings that pastors themselves might not be able to make. And so, Craig, we thank you for all you've done. You've represented us well, and you are, as I indicated, you are a joy to be able to work with. We've known each other a long time. We won't get into that because it goes back in the 20th century, but nonetheless, would you like to have an opening statement to the audience, and then I'll ask a few questions?
Yeah, I would just like to say, Dr. Lance, it's been a great honor and joy to be able to serve Alabama Baptist in this way, and one of the best things is just mainly getting to know more people. I knew a lot previously, but getting to know more and just being able to, the fact that I have been available, I've enjoyed that, and our association has been very understanding. As far as I know, I haven't missed any important meetings in our association. I've been able to balance both, but Alabama Baptists are just a wonderful group of kingdom-minded people, and it's a joy to be able to be out and about and serve them.
And having most Sundays free gives you an opportunity to be in pulpits.
It has. I know by virtue of this position that I've been invited to preach places I probably wouldn't have been invited to preach or had the opportunity to preach. And
yes.
So that's been, a humbling honor to be invited to different places, and but at the same time maintaining service in our association and preaching for our churches. And it's been a challenge sometimes to find that balance, but my schedule has been allowed me to be able to keep I think a good balance. At least if anybody's upset, nobody's said anything. But we are managing, keeping things going in Etowah Association, but at the same time want to be out and about with Alabama Baptist. And
if they were upset, I have a feeling you'd know it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Yeah. Well, audience, you need to be reminded that Craig Carlisle, being associational missional strategist, is the first of his kind on the director of missions level to be elected president. And simultaneous to that, we have our first associational leader as our chairman of the board, Mel Johnson. So both of you have been able to break the ceiling on something and set a record. And it is, you guys help make a great team, and I deeply appreciate that.
Well, being a associational mission strategist is, at least in my opinion, it's become a more important role, perhaps more important than it's been in recent history. And what Mel does for his churches and what I try to do for our churches is, to make the connection between the convention and our churches. And being in the positions we are, it enables us to have a more enhanced representation to our folks. And I'm blessed to serve. Etowah Association is just a wonderful group of churches and pastors and people, and they're good supporters of the association, supporters of the state convention. They're genuinely interested. Not, I don't hear from everybody, but genuinely interested in what's going on and what I'm doing, how I'm doing, those sorts of things. And so,
that's great.
We get to have some really good conversations about how things work and the good things that are happening in Alabama Baptist life.
Well, that's a joy indeed. We also need to remind ourselves that Craig is not only an associational missional leader and a state convention leader as president, but he serves on our very strategic Southern Baptist Convention Executive Committee, which is, think, administrative matters. He represents Alabama. There are 5 representatives, if you will, 5 members of the executive committee, and Craig has joined that lot of recent, and that in itself represents a good opportunity to be a part on the national level, but give a good representation for Alabama Baptist, and our delegation does a good job of that. Craig, I think our people would like to know what you may have learned about Alabama Baptist that you didn't know particularly, or maybe you didn't know as much about aspect of Baptist life.
Had the privilege of serving on several committees and been on the state board of missions more than one time, and you get some knowledge from that. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed the most is, first of all, being able to attend some board meetings of our entities. You hear from them and they hear their reports, but to be able to sit at the table with the leaders and the people who make the decisions and hear their hearts, it's been most impressive to me, the unity of our entities, the unity of their boards as they meet together. Now, I may not be in all the sessions, but the ones that I'm in, there's great unity. The encouragement that I've received from the entity leaders as the president of the convention, they've been so supportive of me, and being able to go and see the inner workings of our entities. We're very blessed in Alabama to have the entities that we have. Their passion for what they do, their focus on their assignment, the fact that they stay in their lane, and just do great work. The other thing that I've enjoyed this year, and this was something that the Lord just put on my heart, was the campus ministry aspect.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I had not met most of them. I had met a few of them. But this year I just set as a goal to try to get to all the campuses and visit them in person. And again, seeing their passion for their work, their passion for the gospel, their passion to reach their campus has just blown me away. And to see how each campus is different, there's no template for campus ministry. You have to contextualize everywhere you go, and to hear some of the challenges that they face from perhaps administration, apathy, the connection, the efforts they make to connect to the students is phenomenal. And one of the ways I got to see that manifested this year was being a part of the Old Mission Sending celebration for our campus ministers and collegiate students, and to go and have a prayer for that and pray for those 100+ that were being sent out all over the world. Again, that was an aspect that I was aware of but had not really seen personally, and to just be able to sit down one-on-one and tell that campus minister, I love you, I'm going to pray for you, and again, just hear their hearts. And again, the unity, the passion is there. And I know the challenge they face. One of the things I've shared with all of them is I said, in some ways, you're kind of the last frontier for young adults. Right. That the older they get and the further they move into life, if we have not won them, it's harder and harder.
Absolutely.
And so what you do on your campus, the discipleship, the gospel sharing, the connections you make is so vitally important to so many.
Yeah.
I love what they're doing. I love I've not been to a lot of their activities. I've just gone in and met with the campus minister, but they love Jesus and they love college students, and they desperately want to win as many to Jesus as they can while they have them.
You have described well. I call it the largest mission field, arguably, in our state, of 300,000 plus college students from community colleges to four-year institutions to major universities, and all of them have contextual, it's hard to imagine Alabama, but all of them have contextual cultures on their campuses. Mm-hmm. Each one would be different.
Yes.
There's not, maybe perhaps Alabama and Auburn being the two flagship ones would be similar to each other, but even that, you got different ends of the state, east and west kind of thing. and both of them are major, in Alabama terms, major universities,
Yes.
and size of the number of students enrolled. And then also we have limitations from some of these colleges on what we can do, and that's growing even more in our
Right.
cultural encroachment on free speech and religious liberty.
Absolutely.
It's becoming difficult. So I'm glad you have taken that on in your
Yeah.
area of interest and passion for not only the state missionaries who are campus ministers, but also the students, and
Right.
thinking about that.
It's exciting. I love hearing the creative ways that they try to gather the students. And you have to be creative. It can't be a status quo or
No.
mundane approach. It's got to be all in, and every one of them, the ones that I have visited in person, have that. And from what I can tell, the students are responding well.
They are.
But the outreach. I was with Chase Williams at Alabama A&M last
Right.
week, and what God's doing through him on that campus
Yes,
is
it's
phenomenal.
amazing. It is amazing.
What's happening there, but at the same time, what God's doing through Jacob Freeman on Montevallo
Right.
campus, which is a small campus and very secular minded.
Oh, sure.
He has.
Arguably maybe the most
I would say, from talking to him, I would say so. But then at the same time, visiting UAB and the challenge of a pedestrian campus,
Yes.
and their location, and they're not. The administration is not the friendliest with
No, they're not. And
But then I also learned, going to the University of Alabama, I had no idea that there was a God Quad. That there's
that's
a piece of land that has all
That's
a lot of
historic.
campus ministries there.
Right.
But again, also seeing, I would want Alabama Baptists to know that, our support of these campus ministries and the provision of the buildings that they meet in is such a vital ministry that I think sometimes goes under the radar with the general population of Alabama Baptists.
supported through the
Cooperative program.
Yes.
And, that's how we have campus ministry, and how our campus ministers are placed there is because of the cooperative program giving.
Yes.
And I think sometimes, maybe our people, they see them at convention, or if they're close to the campus, they may be aware of it. The other thing that I've been impressed with on this is I always ask the campus minister about local church support, and all of them have it, some more than others, but there are some of our local churches that provide food and other things for the campus ministers to help them, because they don't have unlimited resources.
No,
they have to stretch their budget and maximize it. So the local church coming in is, it's a great partnership.
Craig, it popped in my mind as an aside, which is a part of campus ministry. Pam and I were at the International Mission Board International Learning Center, which is, I think, kind of a SHACO setting on their standards. And while we were there meeting with IMB personnel, we met 3 college students who are recent graduates from the University of Alabama.
Wow.
All 3 young ladies are going as journeymen to various countries, including Thailand, Romania, and Kenya.
Wow.
And they spoke very highly of Kimberly Williams, our lead campus minister there at the University of Alabama.
Right.
Now, there are others, because it comes right out of that student missions in the summer. A lot of that it just progresses into being able to go on a 2-year effort, the journeyman effort. That's what that is. So I know we'll be praying for them. Well, we have a convention coming up in a matter of about 8 weeks, 10 weeks, something like 10 weeks,
Right.
9 or 10 weeks.
Right.
And we have a theme, difference makers, and on the program, that's going to be the emphasis, even with our entities, all of our entities, and also theme interpretation. But we have a presentation from a group of those called the Bivocational Ministry, Co-Vocational Ministry Task Force, and that, again, has been part of your passion. You want to talk about that?
Yes. Being a director, when I was a pastor, I was, I would say for the most part, oblivious to part-time ministry or bivocational ministry. I knew that it existed, but I didn't have a real connection with it. I think, when you're a pastor, you're so focused on your congregation, your church, and tending to their needs and ministering to that in that context that you tend to things outside get blurred. When I transitioned to become a director of missions almost 7 years ago, my eyes were open wide to the part-time pastor, bivocational, co-vocational, but also the small church.
Yes.
It was shocking to me when I started looking at my own association to realize that we were not an association of large churches.
No.
When you're pastor of a larger church, you tend to fellowship with like-minded or guys that are in similar positions as you. And so I did that as a pastor. I had very little interaction with the smaller church pastors. And so when I made the transition and I saw what was there, it was a little bit of a shock to my system because my perception drastically changed and my viewpoint changed. And so, going out and preaching in our smaller churches and really trying to connect with the part-time bivocational pastors is such a challenge because of their schedule.
Yes.
They can't meet at normal times. They're not always available for a cup of coffee. You can't go get lunch with them. They have they're not only their job responsibilities, but their church responsibilities. And, the thing about a bivocational minister that I've learned is the expectations between a bivocational and a full-time minister are no different.
Yeah,
they still have everything that I was able to devote full-time as a pastor. They have to do that plus
Right.
To tend to their congregations. And, just seeing a trend, and at least, and I'll speak for Etowah Association, since I've been the director of missions, we've had 3 of our churches have transitioned when their pastor left from full-time to part-time.
Yeah.
Which means that trend, and I know that trend's going to continue
Yes, it
in
will.
our association and probably everywhere else. But the burden also became the shortage of pastors, bivocational ministers in general, not just pastors, but worship leaders, student pastors. I get calls for all of those, and the need is like as I said, is increasing. For instance, in Etowah Association, we have 2 full-time worship pastors or ministers of music. Everybody else that has them is part-time or volunteer.
Sure.
We have about 7 to 8 full-time student pastors. The others, and many of them don't have student ministry because they don't have anybody to serve them. They don't have students to minister to.
Yeah.
And so, it's a real burden because the way I kind of do things, I have a whiteboard in my office, and I have all my pastors listed on that whiteboard, and I have them categorized between full-time and part-time. And I look at that board every day, and I'm thinking, okay, if this pastor leaves, who's going to replace him?
Yeah.
Who's going to step in? And, it's causing us to, think differently about how we can help these churches. One instance in Etowah Association, one of our larger churches and our association partnered together for a church that was in a very strategic location in our community to help them be able to have a full-time pastor. So we supported salary, benefits, and help prop him up to avail him to full-time ministry in this community. And the Lord's blessed that the church has doubled in size in almost 2 years. They're reaching kids, they're reaching students in the community. God's doing a great work there. And so we've just recently partnered with another church to help support a transitional pastor for them. They need to make some real crucial decisions, but they weren't ready to give up. And so the Lord led me and put me in touch with a transitional pastor, and he's just started. And so our association is helping support his salary, so he can be paid an appropriate amount for his ministry. But his job is to help them figure out their future. Is that church going to be there in the future?
Right.
And I have other churches that I would love to have a larger church come alongside and partner with another church to supplement, because part-time ministry is so difficult, and especially if you're in a transitional community, whether it's economic or racial, the time that's devoted there has got to be more than perhaps what just a regular part-time pastor
Absolutely.
could give.
Yeah.
And so, we're looking at those things and trying to help our churches the best way we can. But the predominant issue is the pastoral transition. Is who are we going to have to recommend to them? And they'll call my office and say, can you give us your resumes for a bivocational minister? And even when I do pastor search training or coaching, sitting there talking to them about their status of their pastor. Are you going to can you support a full-time pastor? Can you, what can we do here? And so it creates it's concerning. It's concerning about the future of our churches, because, in all honesty, some of them won't make it. We will have several churches close in the next few years for lack of numbers and finances, and then the issue is for a pastor to be able to go to a place where he feels like he can make a difference.
That's right.
He needs to be fulfilled in his ministry too. And so all of that put together makes for interesting conversations about the future of churches, local churches. And that we're not at the point, I've read several articles, people saying if they would just merge, if they would just come together and that sort of thing. And, I love the idea. And in my head, it makes perfect sense. But to the churches, it makes no sense at all.
Right.
I met with a church recently in our association that they're running 4 in their attendance.
Yeah.
And so I sat with them. I said, what does the future look like for your church? And the 3 of the 4 that attend were there, all exceeding the age of 80.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we probably won't be here in the next, I said, 2 to 5 years. And I said, exactly. I said, what's the plan? What about your property? What are you going to do? And I think not necessarily what you asked, but so many churches don't have reversion clauses in their documents. So, the property that we've received as an association, they just call us and say, hey, we're going to bring you the keys.
Right.
But churches don't think about they don't want to think about the fact that we may not exist. And then when the time comes, they're not prepared. And
no one wants to plan their own funeral.
No.
And that's kind of what that is.
And, the sad thing is I think churches I don't think they're in denial. I think they're just trying to survive as long as they can, and they, to you and I and other perhaps associational missionaries, we look at it and we think there's so much more that you could do to prolong the legacy of your church beside closing the doors. But yet that's a hard thing for them to grasp, because I think for some they feel like it's betrayal of their ancestors. They're letting them down, and family, and they, and so many of our churches, especially in urban areas, the ones that are still going, are generationally supported by grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Living away somewhere.
But they don't live in the community.
That's right. They're living off somewhere.
They drive in and they meet at church, but then they leave, and so they lose connection with their community.
Right. And some of them live off and just send money in.
They do. They do.
Where dad
and so,
and mom went.
It's an interesting dynamic today for all churches, there's churches that I know that, until the Lord comes, will be there. they're going to be able to sustain, and they're doing what they need to do. They're doing really great things in their community and striving to reach their community. But in our community in the Gadsden area, we have a basic about a 5-6 mile
radius
area that on either side, all churches are in jeopardy on
Yes.
both ends,
Oh, yeah.
and in between,
Right.
all the churches are in jeopardy unless something happens. And for us, we're not a planter destination. We don't have people wanting to come to Gadsden and plant churches. So our job is going to be to help either preserve what we have, help them close their doors as gracefully as they
Right.
can.
Yeah.
But also present to them ideas for legacy. And, hopefully there'll be some that will choose the legacy model rather than the burial model.
Yeah. Well, we certainly appreciate that passion, and very much we hope it becomes contagious to help churches which are struggling and also those BIVOs. But let me mention real quickly 2 things. One is we have Send Gadsden coming your way in the spring, and that for people who do not understand what that is, we're going to focus there on multiple facets of ministries, working definitely the anchor is going to be the association, but State Board of Missions will be helping out and with personnel and certainly with funding, and we're looking forward to that. We don't have a whole lot of time, but give us a date on that.
It'll be March 30th through April 13th of 2025. So far, our churches have worked very hard, making sure our people know that it's coming. It'll be a big part of our associational meeting in October. But the buy-in for our churches has been overwhelming. My goal is all 80 churches participate in some way, do
That'd be
something, and as far as that period of time. So. But what we've been able to do so far, we have churches that are in the same community partnering together to help each other out because
Right.
they're smaller churches, but when they come together, they can do great things. We have several doing that. We have some of our larger churches are going to move across the county and help some smaller churches to be able to do some things. And so we're real excited about what this is going to mean for Etowah County. And our hope is that it won't be just those 2 weeks, that this will be something that will be ongoing, that our
Right.
churches will get excited and say, we need to do this. We need to do this
You were
again.
in a meeting that we had earlier, but I talked about a missional revival, and that may be a stimulus for that. We pray so.
I think it will.
Okay, well, we want to invite you, all of you, to become a part of the reunion we have every year annually at what we call our state convention. It's down in Daphne at the Eastern Shore Baptist Church, and it's in November, and Craig will be presiding and also doing some other things, and yours truly will be working somewhat in the background. But we invite you to become a part of this fellowship because we certainly want to be difference makers, and that, of course, is going to be the emphasis. Until next time, we're glad that you've joined us on One Mission Podcast, and we look forward to being a part of your experience in the days to come. God bless.